how to make the best sourdough bread, everything in one video, start to finish, step by step. This video is for you. I've also got the entire recipe and all of the steps in the caption, and I've included some of the best tips from our favorite sourdough bakers and content creators on TikTok. So let's go. Step one is we're going to mix our dough. So we need 100 grams of our active sourdough starter, followed by 350 grams of warm water. Then you're going to give this a really good whisk until it's nice and foamy. And if you don't have a dough whisk, no worries. You can use a wooden spoon or whatever whisk you do have. This first pro tip comes to us by Jesha, and we're doing 450 grams of unbleached bread flour, followed by 50 grams of whole wheat flour. Now, if you don't like whole wheat, no worries. You can do 500 grams of bread flour, but this really does add extra flavor to your bread, and it also helps with bulk fermentation. Next up, we're adding 10 grams of salt. We're going to give everything a really good mix until it's nice and incorporated in a shaggy dough form. So it should go from this to this. Our next pro tip comes from Parker at Basil and Bloom. So immediately after mixing your dough, you're going to get it out onto your clean work surface, and it looks like this. Now we're going to start doing some slap and folds. And the reason we're doing this is to build strength and structure in our dough right at the beginning. Parker talks a lot about how beginners tend to undermix their dough because they're afraid of over mixing their dough. So you'll see what I'm doing here is picking up my dough from the center and slapping it back down, turning it a quarter of a turn, picking it up from the center, slapping it back down. I do this for about 3 minutes and watch my dough change. It's actually kind of crazy. There's tons of strength already built up, which is exactly what we want. We're going to put this right back into our bowl, cover it up, and we're going to let it rest on our counter for 1 hour. After that 1 hour rest, we're going to uncover our dough and start doing our stretch and folds. So here you'll see I'm just grabbing my dough, stretching it as far as it will go, and slapping it back down. I'm turning my bowl a quarter of a turn, grabbing my dough, stretching it as far as it will go without ripping it, and slapping it back down. Again, you'll see quarter of a turn, grab your dough, stretch it as far as you can, slap it back down. I'm going to go around my bowl a few times and work my dough until it won't stretch anymore. I'm doing 3 sets of stretch and folds every 30 minutes. Our next pro tip is all about bulk fermentation, and it's from the Sourdough Journey. So if you're struggling with bulk fermentation, I highly recommend using this chart that he created that gives you a really good idea on how long your dough should bulk ferment for based on your dough temp. And please remember, your bulk fermentation time in this recipe starts the minute we mixed our dough. I'm going to cover my dough and let it finish bulk fermenting on my counter at room temp. Now, this is about 3 hours into bulk fermentation, and then we're going to jump ahead to about 6 hours in. As you can see, I've got some great bubbles on the surface. My dough is domed, and then when I go to pull my dough away from the bowl, it pulls away pretty easily. Once my dough is done bulk fermenting, I'm going to get it out onto my work surface, and you want to let gravity do most of the work here, but as you can see, I'm kind of releasing it from the side of my bowl at the end there. Now I am doing a pre-shape here, so I'm kind of just pushing and pulling my dough, getting everything nice and tucked underneath, and creating a nice dough ball. We're going to cover our dough with a clean kitchen towel and let it rest for 30 minutes. Once the 30 minutes are up, you're going to lightly flour your banneton. This next pro tip comes from Prindle Sourdough, and this is her final shaping method. So you're going to flip your dough over, and then we're going to stretch it out into a square or a rectangular shape. Now you'll grab each corner and fold it in towards the middle like I'm doing here. So there goes 1 and 2, and then we're going to grab that next corner, fold it into the middle, and then this last corner, fold it into the middle, and then we're going to gently flip our dough over and start shaping. Now our entire goal here is to create some tension on the surface of our dough. So we're going to push and pull our dough. So push, pull, tuck, push, pull, tuck, and we're just creating as much surface tension as we possibly can while getting everything nice and tucked underneath. Once you're happy with the shape, you're going to put your dough into your banneton, and then this next part is totally optional. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't, but if you want to create a little extra tension on your dough, you can kind of just pull all of the outsides towards the inside and create a little bit of a stitch. We're going to cover our dough and put it in the refrigerator for a cold proof. When you're ready to bake, you're going to preheat your oven to 450 with your empty Dutch oven inside. Once that's done, you're going to take your dough out, lightly dust the bottom with some flour, and then we're going to get our dough onto our parchment paper. And voila, beautiful. We're going to do a light coating of flour on our dough. Now this next pro tip comes from Muscle Mama Sourdough, and it's all about scoring and how to score to create a beautiful ear on your loaf. So you're going to take your bread lom or your knife, and you're going to do your expansion score at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to go over that expansion score twice. So as you'll see here, I'm doing one more pass. mass. Now you're going to take your bread loam and you're going to go right under the surface layer of your dough, and you're going to do one more pass, and it's going to create a little flap. I'll show you here, and that's going to become our ear. At this point, you'll do any decorative scoring that you want to do, totally optional. I'm just doing a couple wheat stalks here. And then we're going to get our hot Dutch oven out of the oven, and we're going to place our dough right into it. This next tip is from me, but if you don't want your parchment paper baking into your loaf and creating those weird divots, you can take a wooden spoon and kind of separate the parchment paper from the dough. We're going to put the lid back on our Dutch oven and bake at 450 for 30 minutes. Once those 30 minutes is up, you're going to take your Dutch oven out, remove your lid, and boom, baby, look at that. It looks so good. It's going back in the oven at 450 for 12 to 15 minutes until it's nice and golden brown. You want to immediately move your bread to a cooling rack and let it cool for about an hour until you slice into it. But this bread was maybe one of the most beautiful loaves. Look at that ear. It's gorgeous. Thank you, Muscle Mama Sourdough, and thank you to all the creators for all of these amazing tips, because this sourdough was so good. Best flavor, best texture. I really hope you guys enjoy.